All right, so welcome to our special, very special April Community Coalition meeting. All right, that means round of applause. All right. It's always good positive vibes and energy in here. Let me say thanks to the city of Urbana that's doing recording for us, so let's give them a round of applause. So, how many first-timers are here today? Okay. I was not giving such a round of applause. So I mentioned this is a special meeting, and each meeting is different each month. So I don't know why I'm calling this one more special than another, but we're gonna really talk about what we talked about in our first meeting of the year, January year, around culture, climate, environment, and my good friend Karen Sims will talk about really what a traumatizing time we are in, not only here in our community, but across the country. There's just really a lot going on right now, and I believe we see it playing out in our interactions, in our communication, how we're supporting one another or not supporting one another. I don't even go on social media right now. That's how nasty all that is, right? But we start off each meeting with just doing simple introductions. Before we get into our panel conversation, Mayor Marlin, if you don't mind, if you wouldn't mind coming up here, please. All right, so this is your last meeting as mayor of Urbana, not your last meeting that you'll be at, And I just really want to extend a special thank you and appreciation personally, as well as for our community coalition. You go back to working in the organizing days as a city council member in Urbana, and you had to come off the executive committee when you became mayor. So I think history is going to prove a very significant measure of your time as mayor of Urbana. The accomplishments are many, not to mention navigating through our pandemic. Your hiring has been phenomenal over the last couple of years from a diverse leadership perspective, and your social and economic impact in Urbana, again, I think will prove to be very, very well and very effective. So as your last Community Coalition meeting as mayor, I just want to send a very special thank you, and I would love a very special Community Coalition response for Mayor Diane Marlin. So you said too much in the introduction, but do you want to say anything else?
It's my last official meeting. I just want to say thank you, and I look around the room, and much of what we've done in Urbana has been with people in this room, and I appreciate that very much. I'm not leaving town, and I intend to make good trouble as a citizen of Urbana.
All right, so thank you for that. I'm going to ask Chief Larry Boone, Jorge Elvir, Karen Sims, and Chief Timothy Tyler to come join on the panel. So as they're coming up, let me get my notes to stay on script. So earlier, one more mic, and we will go a few moments and have them share thoughts and ideas, and then we will open up for a couple of minutes of audience questions to the panelists or share a comment with us. So earlier in the year, we talked about really climate and environment across the country and here. Chief Tyler came up with the phrase that as a community coalition and as a county organization that we're going to thrive in 25. And we've had a rough few months, right? And it's just keeping it real. And anytime you start losing your young, I'll just say young folks, to untimely deaths, it has to spark a significant alarm in all of us. And the solutions are really amongst and all of us here in this room and throughout our community. So it's starting to get warm. We went through a really much better year last year in the reduction of our shooting incidents, and we've started to see it increase the last couple of months. As I mentioned, our climate and stability, I don't know how much there's national influence on all of that. And as Karen would say to me, we're a community as individuals, organizations that's very traumatized right now. And we see that playing out in so many different ways. I've shared this little brief thing a couple of weeks ago. I'm driving, I pull up at a four-way stop, you know how everyone's kind of like, so I was just like, come on, you know, no big deal, right? I wasn't in that big of a hurry. And the guy comes around the corner and he looks at me with just this anger, right? And he gives me the finger, right? And I was like, dude, it's just a four-way stop, right? But that's how people are. If you look at the cars next to you, you see the road rage, and we're on edge. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. And I've got a great panel that's involved in this work in a number of different ways. So first, let me introduce Chief Larry Booms, Police Chief, City of Urbana, Chief Timothy Tyler, or Tim, Champaign Police Chief, my good friend and our community trauma expert leading our trauma work for the last 10 years, Karen Sims, and then my colleague at the city, Jorge Elvir, who's point person on our blueprint. And so I'm going to ask them a couple questions to kind of just open this up and get the conversation going. And then, like I said, we're going to talk about solutions. I don't want to just talk about the problems and us placing blame on each other and attacking one another without some common solutions. So we're coming a couple of weeks after our Healing Solutions, Healing Communities Conference that TRI hosted. Unfortunately, I was out of town, not able to attend, but everything that I've heard is what a phenomenal conference that it was, really setting the tone for our conversation today. So Chief Boone, you're first here. You talked to us about data a lot, right? You and Chief Tyler have shared with me just some really scary incidents that police have encountered over the last month or two. Officers are concerned about their safety. We know that any call can be one that ends up in going in the wrong direction. And both of you shared with me about incidents that took place that fortunately police didn't have to use lethal force to address. So Chief Boone, start us off just kind of talking about climate culture, what the officers are seeing and feeling right now.
Well, thank you for, can you hear me? We're good? All right, thank you for. There you go. Mic drop. All right. Thank you, Tracy and coalition staff for allowing us to speak to you all. Thrive in 25. Well, so far we hadn't, particularly in Urbana. We currently have 6 homicides, which is a lot for a city this size. You spoke about data. Every decision I try to make is through the lens of data. And when we look at data in Urbana, one of our challenges is domestics and gunplay. We had a unfortunate incident, several unfortunate incidents that kind of touched on either one of those lanes, domestics or just gun violence. We had way too many youth in the possessions of guns. And as a community, we have to do some systematic processes, and these processes exist if we all accept them and take part in the processes. We have to do a better job of identifying where the guns are coming from. Illinois has a very, very strict gun laws. It's number 4 in the nation. The problem is, I'm not throwing stones at any neighboring states. The problem is, the neighboring state, their gun laws are very, very lax. Illinois has an A-. This is how they're graded. A- is pretty good. Some of the neighboring states has D- and Fs. That's a reality. I've seen way too many body-worn cameras where we could have taken life. One of the reasons I present data, and one of the reasons I always say we recovered or we took so many guns off an individual without incident. Because I want you to know, our officers, 1, they're well trained. 2, there's that element of sanctity of life, okay? We had to date 5 incidents where we could have taken life. Been awful, right? But lawful. And I can tell you where I'm from. I was telling the new elected mayor this the other day. Where I'm from, they've been shot. I know the caliber of officers we have here. They patrol with a position of compassion. And one of the reasons I highlight the number of guns taken off individuals because I'm afraid that something may happen, that we now have an opportunity to avert that something from happening. And there's various models with respect to averting gunplay, particularly with our youth. I just simply ask that we take a look at it. One of the things we did where I'm from, we investigated every gun we recovered from a crime. We don't do that here. Because one of the things I learned by investigating not just the crime, but the gun, you'll find that there are systematic processes in place to allow illegal gun flow. That's a fact. Now, I see a lot of you nodding your head, and I appreciate that. But to address that, we have to do something different. I know what that different is, and I don't want to say because I don't want to appear as though I'm trying to curry resources. But if you want the information, I'll provide it to you. I know there's others here, so I'm going to yield for them.
Hello, teammates. So, one story I want to start with is last week, Champaign police got called to the intersection, a major intersection in our town, with a male that was pointing a weapon at passing motorists. So we get there, and it's a male pointing a real weapon at motorists. So, like Chief Boone said, if we do our investigation or we get an outside agency to come and do our investigation, we're probably going to be justified after we clear it through the state's attorney's office because she has the last word. But in our training, this would have probably been justified. Officers went up there, yes, they were tactical, but I'm happy to report they didn't use any deadly force. Now, at the end of April, make my 32nd year as a cop, I've never seen that type of policing before. I was just blown away with the discipline and the care of the police officer who don't have a military background. We hired him and he was a waiter. And he's serving at that capacity. In January, when Urbana experienced their week of hell, and I looked at the chief and I was like, I feel bad for you, because I knew my week was coming. The unfortunate part about the police department, we cannot pick and choose when it's gonna be a bad week for the community. Other people choose that for us. Last month, in March, I had 2 homicides. It's my 3rd homicide this year. And they're all, I don't even know why did they happen. But I know one was so unfortunate, and I don't know if Cry For You was in the room, but the week before, I went through some training with them with Dr. Mendenhall at the university, and we was talking about crime scene compassion. And I work with E&E, and I talked to you, Karen, and so we're working with E&E, and we're gonna bring that to our police department because we need it. Because on the crime scene, we're so focused on making sure that person that can never speak and tell us what to do, we're so focused on getting justice for that person and for their family that sometimes it don't seem like we care. But we do care, because all we want that family to get is justice. And I did apologize, right? I was like, yeah, we need to improve in that. So we have that common with the Champaign Police Department. But I tell you what, we had a stabbing recently, and it was horrific. It was horrific. Blood everywhere, officers' uniforms soaked in blood, so they're all gone. My 23-year-old female police officer is there, her first scene like this, and her uniform is just soaked in blood. And you look them in the eye, right? And the worst thing that a police officer can tell you when you ask them how they're doing, you know what they say? I'm good. So I'm gonna peel back who Tim Tyler is for people in the room. You can judge me. I don't care, because I'm a human being first. I was telling my new elected council member today, I went to a couple wars, and I worked the mean streets of Chicago as a state trooper on the west side of Chicago. When I got back from my last tour of duty, I wasn't right. I went through major depression. I literally had seen too much. And fortunately, my family members and my friends was able to ensure that I got some help, got counseling. The most important thing, not to offend anyone in the room, I gave my life to Christ. Amen. So now I worry about my police officers. I pray for them. I stand in the gap for everyone in this room, the whole community. But I just want you to really, one thing I'm learning about being in this community, we need to walk in each other's shoes. It's very important that you know that your police officers are experiencing a very hard time. We went through the death of Chris Oberheim. That's not too far from them. We're working hard. I just want to give Champaign County City Council, they passed a major study session bill last night, and we're going to have mental health professions in the city 24 hours a day helping our communities, and that is a round of applause. Yeah, we're all family. Yes, I just dress myself down, but I want you to know, right? I want you to know if I'm a 32-year, two-time combat veteran and I struggle, I'm very concerned about my 21 and 22-year-old police officers with no life experience. And I ask that you pray for them and keep them in your thoughts and be gentle with them, because I'm afraid, like last year I had a couple officers quit because the job was too much for them.
Jorge, Drew, your lead role for Blueprint, we have our justice victim advocates, and they're going out working with those involved in our incidents. What's our staff saying about the people that they're meeting and connecting with? What's that like for, I'm gonna shift it a little bit, right, to talk about community and what's happening. You guys have been doing phenomenal work at Champaign Park Apartments. What are we learning about where our community's at and people?
So I would say, what we're learning is that as a community, the community is also hurting, right? There's trauma that the community is experiencing. You know, when you look at it from the other lens, you know, when you look at what the JVAs are doing, the JVAs are, you know, the front line to an incident. You know, when an incident takes place in Champaign, I either get a call from MetCat, I get a call from a lieutenant, or I get a call from chief, and the JVAs are kind of the front line. They're responding to those victims. Sometimes they're responding in the hospital, sometimes the next day in their homes. It just depends. But those individuals are also hurting, also experiencing trauma, also feeling lost. So the JVAs are there to provide support, trauma support, help them navigate through some complicated systems that exist, you know, as far as getting resources, as far as advocacy, as far as, you know, the court system, all those different things that have to take place. You know, what's gonna happen with their loved one, how they're gonna take care of their loved one, all those different things that arise. Sometimes there's a beef going on, and sometimes there's relocation that needs to take place. Sometimes a loved one is in the hospital, and sometimes those loved ones have to be shipped to St. Louis or Chicago for treatment. And we help those families navigate that, get them there, provide them housing while they're there, food and all that, along with CU Tribe provides that support as well in collaboration. One of the big things that I would say is that as the JVAs are the front line, they're working hand in hand with our Blueprint partners who are doing a lot of the heavy lifting as well, meeting with the families and working in the community and providing that support overall. As far as it relates to Champaign Park Apartments, we have a high housing crisis there with, you know, Champaign Park Apartments. About 90% of the facility, the compound is condemned. So we have individual families that are living there that need housing, immediate housing. Sometimes they're on vouchers, sometimes they're not. Sometimes their situations are not one that are really applicable to landlords who want to rent to them. So we have to find them stable housing, stable food. Some have medical incidents, medical disabilities and medical concerns that they have to deal with. So the JVAs are providing that support, you know, getting them connected with the resources they need, whether it's regional planning, whether it's Cunningham Township, whether it's Champaign Housing Authority, whatever it may be, trying to get them through those systems and those times of crisis. So just providing that support. And as we talk about data, I just want to make sure that, you know, I look at data. I remember when I was an educator, still am, when I was leading an educational system, you can look at the data and I can look at it and Johnny can't read. Yeah, Johnny can't read it. We're going to try to fix Johnny from reading. But what led Johnny to not be able to read, right? We have to look at that. We can't just look at the data as the numbers. We have to aggregate that data and see that there's humans, society, community behind those numbers, and see what are those root causes, right? And with the Blueprint, we're always talking about how do we address those root causes, that poverty, racism, undereducated, underserved schools, underserved social services, access to guns. That's one of the issues as well, right? Hopelessness, right? What are we doing to change that so that our numbers can then look better? But going behind the numbers, not just looking at those numbers, is the big thing with the Blueprint, right? Looking at the root causes.
So one of you pass your mic to Karen, please. We're gonna double mic you. So Karen, you offered something I thought was in our pre-talk of us still being traumatized, working from and through the pandemic. And we haven't healed from that. Talk a little bit about that as you share that with me.
Well, stress brains act stressed, and so a lot of what we're talking about is a reflection of stress. And we had an escalation of gun violence, and all the data and research says part of it was just related to the stress of the pandemic. So when people are unsupported, have access to weapons, don't have good coping skills, we had increased child abuse, we had increased intimate partner violence, we had increased community violence. And so we should all be aware of that. And I think from my experience, I have a couple different lenses from both being able to work alongside the blueprint around supporting survivors, but also working with sometimes really wonderfully many of the organizations. And I think as a whole unit, there's not a single organization that I've had a chance to sit with, talk with, be with, that isn't also feeling stressed, overextended, undersupported, feeling like their capacity to do this work with integrity, with empathy, with compassion. So, we've got people who are feeling vulnerable, supporting people who are under-resourced and feeling vulnerable in a community where, although we have a lot of resources, I don't know if as a community people feel the support for the work, especially for, I'm gonna say something, especially for some of the work that happens in this room. I think when you're working with people who have been historically marginalized, they are often forgotten. And when you're trying to hold that work up, trying to hold up people who are invisible, or who, when things happen, I'm gonna just put this out there, like for example, if I am a person who's working with people who are dealing with housing insecurity, and I hear public discourse say, I don't really care about people who don't have housing, and I'm doing that work every day, you actually are saying something about things that I value, about our community, about how we want to live and be together. And I believe a lot of us are straddling this whole moral injury piece because we're in a place where there's a cost of caring, and sometimes we're forced to advocate, be a part of systems and policies and procedures that are not aligned with it. So one, a lot of people are stressed. I've said this to you, I don't feel like we've done a good job of getting out on the front end because I think worse is coming. And it's gotta be on every single level, right? So we've gotta acknowledge the cost of people who are doing heavy lifting. We've also gotta support the community, and we've gotta be thinking about this much more strategically. And I just wanna say one last thing, because I thought about this conversation. This is not related to stress. I would wish, one small thing, because we know access to guns and trigger, if anybody in the room has access to guns, please lock them up, right? If everybody made a commitment to making sure that people did not have access to your guns, that would make a difference, because when people break into your house, they're stealing your guns, and they're selling them for $35. And so if we could all make commitments to reducing the access to guns, because again, stressed brains don't make logical decisions. So if I can just remove a trigger, I might be helping make the community safer in the long term, right? So I might have to be uncomfortable to keep other people safe.
So thank you for that kind of opening, right? And it's too big of a subject to do a 20-minute panel discussion and think that we are going to solve it right now, right? And so I want all of you to kind of share about what your thoughts are on next steps on how we come together to address this. And give it back to Jorge to start this part of it off, right? Like, how do we find the common spaces to get us on the place to look and identify solutions?
I think the continued collaboration, the continued talk, but I think it has to go a little bit further. You know, one of the conversations that I constantly always have is that we're talking about Champaign, Urbana, but sometimes when I'm talking Champaign, right? Understanding that even if something happens in Urbana, it has an impact in Champaign. And sometimes when things happen in Champaign, it has an impact in Urbana. So, you know, building those connections, continuing to build those connections should be some of the next steps that we do. And really just looking at, you know, how can we be proactive? How can we really address those root causes of gun violence? And how do we support holistically the community, the organizations, the first responders as a whole, and not look at it in a silo, right? Looking at it how they are interconnected, right? It's an intersectionality that exists that we really have to focus on. Because as long as we stay right here, we're just focusing on our silo, we're never gonna make that impact that we need to make holistically across the board. So I would say the collaboration and working together.
So Chief Tyler.
Yeah, I love everyone in this room, but this place should be packed. Truth of the matter is, I know everybody is doing great work, and we can tell with how great our community is. I get to go around and, you know, listen to everyone. But at the same token, there are a group of people that are not being served because we need to get out more. We need, I think, and don't throw nothing at me. I think we need to get more in the neighborhoods and make it normal. So I'm a church boy, right? So I hate when they say come to church. I always ask, why can't the church go to them? Why can't we set up different things in these underprivileged communities and be there? And guess what? And not just check the block. Be there, be a part of the community. That's what I think we need to do. I'm not saying we're not doing it. I'm just saying I work 24 hours, 7 days a week, and I don't see it enough.
So Chief Boone, you've been here year and a half, is that fair?
That's fair.
I know you've experienced a lot of frustration coming here to our community and learning and adapting. It's not a setup question. We're real here at Coalition, right? So talk about, from your perspective, how we help bridge, I don't want to say divides, opportunities to figure out how we connect Urbana internally as well as community-wide. How do we do that, from your opinion?
You give me the hard question. I have two perspectives. One, as an African-American male that grew up in the inner city, that seen it all. You name it, I've seen it, I've experienced it. Can smell it, can see it, can visualize it. Drug dealing, accosted by police, arrest, dead bodies. I was telling Karen one particular day, we were meeting and I was frustrated, and you all saw the letter, most of you had, that I wrote. That was out of frustration. I've seen 1,000 dead bodies in my career, all black. Mostly young men. So I'm over the point of discussions. I'm over the point of it's coming from the police, we shouldn't embrace it. I come from an experience where I know the driving data surrounding some of these conflicts are poverty, a lack of hope, homelessness. I know all that. I've experienced all that. And I'm tired of having meetings just to talk. There are models in place that work. I I know they work because I've seen them work, that can utilize anyone in this audience, from first followers, from races, from Courage Connection. And the formula is very simple, folks. It's PI. P for prevention first, I for intervention, and E, lastly, say it again, lastly, enforcement. That's the lens I come from. If you want that model, we can build that model. And that model has shown to be successful. Now, we can go out and hire all kind of consultants. They're not going to invent anything new. I've been doing this 100 years. They're not going to invent anything new. They may bring a different perspective in how you approach it, which is appreciable. But everybody in here has a role. And if we are surgical about our conversations, about our thoughts, we can make inroads. This isn't hard. The hard part is coming together. I'll yield.
So we haven't talked much about our youth and our young folks, and we were on a call. As you all remember, we did our youth survey a few months ago, and we're starting to bring that team back to talk, to address the needs that our youth have expressed to us. And about 35% of our youth told us in this survey that they don't feel safe in their neighborhoods. We had, I don't know, Capricia's here from the Y, and she talked to us on that call about kids are in their safe space, but then they have to walk home, then they have to go home, and they feel they have to carry to protect themselves, right? They feel the pressure to have to, defend themselves. I remember we were at Centennial High School meeting with a group of students, and to hear, it almost brought a tear to my eye to hear students talk about in the morning, they're getting up, they're getting their book bag, and their gun to go to school, right? So we've got to be very intentional about what our approaches are, how do we connect better with our youth. I know we're going to be looking at this youth summit idea, youth-led, youth-focused. I know we're looking at some intentional programming to try to connect with students before the end of the school year, which is right around the corner. Karen, we're just coming out of the Healing Solutions Conference. If you could give us, a couple of points coming out of the conference, the summit, that you want to share.
So, I'm probably not the best segue for this, because I believe that youth are only as good as the adults. And I would love it if we did, a PI, we were thinking prevention, intervention, right? And we thought about how many resources we use for adults and families, and that came out as a theme. Because if families aren't good, it's hard to be good as a kid. And I would love it if we could shift some resources to families. We also act like once you're 18, somehow you're magically fixed. And when I look at gun violence and community violence and a lot of the issues, it's 18 to 34, and there are no resources for 18 to 34. And if you have a substance abuse need or a mental health need, you're SOL until you get arrested or die. Right? Most of them did not successfully complete. And then we can't recover you. I was listening to Indianapolis's summer youth program, and it includes young people between the ages of 16 and 24. And imagine how radical it would be if we could get some of those young people in that age group. So we heard families, we heard much more in the community, doing stuff in community, a lot more community building, solid relationship building. We heard people talk about the need to do things that are intergenerational, And we also heard a huge need to make sure that the people who do the work also are well supported, and we don't have really an infrastructure for the people who are doing the work that supports them being able to stay with longevity, with fidelity, with compassion, with empathy. So yes, for youth all day long, but again, if we were doing the pack, I believe we put a whole bunch of resources to young people, and we don't think about families, and we definitely don't think about women. Because again, I'm gonna draw the pack. How much money goes to boys and young men? How much money goes to women and girls? And if women and girls aren't good, I promise you young men aren't good. And so, sorry.
No, it's all good. So, Tara, will you come get one of the mics, please? And if you don't mind, Ms. State's Attorney, if you would just share, is that okay? About our 12-year-old.
All right, friends. I'm gonna read you an email that I got today. I'm gonna take out the names. On April 6th, a child and some friends were at the playground at an apartment complex when a pit bull got loose and ran at the 12-year-old. The 12-year-old pulled a 9mm gun out of his pocket and fired at the dog, striking the dog. When pointing and firing the gun, it was pointed in the direction of 4 of his friends who were with him about 50 feet away. You haven't heard about this because he didn't hit the other kids, he hit the dog. And there was video and a witness. And he was supposed to be in school, but he wasn't. And he was located at his father's apartment, and our fine police officers with the Urbana Police Department investigated this. He admitted to shooting the dog. A search conducted yielded a spent round casing, the backpack he was wearing at the time of the shooting, the shoes, a handgun holster, and 5 rounds of live 9mm ammunition. He said he gave the gun to a friend, but wouldn't tell us who that friend was or where that friend was living. And so he will be in court tomorrow.
So I didn't tell that story or ask her to tell that story or sensationalizing it. That's just real life where we are in our community, which requires the urgency, right? So we don't have all summer to think of how we're gonna address this, right? We've gotta be urgent and strategic, right? Now. So I know a couple of you said you had questions or comments, so I wanna get those in, take about 5 minutes to do that. Raise your hand if you want the mic. We have many right there.
I hear you say, about the churches. The churches are just as frustrated and doing the very best that they can with this issue as well. As I've talked to young people, very young people, they're saying to me, Ms. Pearson, my mom and dad told me that if someone does something to me or hit me, I'm to knock them out. I don't play like that. And problem solving when they see these things. And in the schools, how many in the schools are teaching anti-bullying and conflict resolution and things like that? It is no one person's problem, just like Karen said, and we appreciate that. But the ministers are asked to go out and bring them into the church. Well, there's also anger in the church as well. There's anger and aggression in the churches. There's anger everywhere. And so when I talk to young people, they solve their problems a different way, and we need to let them know that that is just not acceptable the way they handle it. But how do you do that when they get their parents reinforcing that?
So anyone else raise their hand if you've got Martell's in the back chair. So what I'm offering here through the coalition is I'm very open to coordinating, scheduling any community meetings, but I don't want it to just be on the coalition. So I want you through your organizations, your churches, your community groups, your city, right? To say, hey, I want to host a community meeting right here to talk about our neighborhood, our community, about what's happening. And I assure you, we'll support that. We'll get folks out to help us with this idea of developing some type of organized plan. Go ahead, Ted.
I'm gonna talk really from life experience to me.
Real quick too, okay?
I'll do it in 2 minutes.
Okay.
I went to Unit 4 schools. I went all the way from 1st grade to 12th grade. Could not read. Miss Pearson was one of my teachers. I wasn't ashamed that I couldn't read. I wanted to read. I asked everybody, help me read. My mom and sister read 30 books a month. Until we fix some of the stuff in schools for young black males, where they don't grow up angry, I grew up angry. And was angry every day because I couldn't get what I need as a young man. And all I want to do is learn how to read. And now that I've learned how to read, I like knowledge of self. When you talk about knowledge of self, when we go to school, we learn about everybody else. We don't get to learn about self. If you don't learn about self, you don't have no self-esteem. You lose dignity of your other man because don't nobody talk about the other black man. And when we do see the black man, it's showed on TV, violence. That's all you show. Our music, violence. That's all we show, told. And then when we out in the real life, which I haven't been in this position all my life. I was in the streets. When I say in the streets, I was in the streets everywhere. Not only Champaign, Chicago, Memphis, Detroit, wherever it was trouble, that's where I went. You know how many times I got guns pulled on me in the streets? 4. Ask me how many times I got pulled guns on me while I was driving. I can count up to 13, but I can't remember all the rest, but it was more than that. It was by the police, and that's not me knocking the police, that's life experience. And that's, from me at 63 going through that, and it's all the way down to the 18 years old now, we talk about gun violence, but we don't talk about treatment of the young black man. What make him so angry? What make him kill the other black man? We got to get our kids in school where the schools teach real history, not their history, where we learn about everything. Until we do that, we're gonna have young, angry black men, and the only thing they want, we decide to get in fights with our fists. They didn't step it up. 20 years ago, I come out here trying to help the young teenagers, knocked on every door I could. Me and Patrick trying our best to get the resources to help us. We was way ahead of the game, because we seen what, so we was in the streets, we seen what was headed was for. We couldn't get the resources to help the young men. And now we're dealing with a problem. I come to Chief Cobb. Let me think what year. All right, one more thing. Right. 2014, saying we got guns popping up in our neighborhoods, and the kids getting them before the adults. Y'all need to find out where these guns coming from. Now these guns is here.
So I think, thanks, Chef. Give me a round of applause, thanks. So I think what I heard Karen talk about is family support too, right? So we can't put more on the schools than what we're doing with our families and our community at the same time. So not enough time, right? I want us to hear the urgency and coming together and responding. And so Chief Larry Boone, Chief Tim Tyler, Karen Sims, Jorge over here. Let's give them a round of applause and say thank you. All right. So we have some information sharing we're gonna do. Is Tom here from Tri? Okay, come on up. Let's get the Tri slides up. And I need you to kind of go through it, okay? We're getting short on time.
Wow, this is like a segue. That's really hard to do. But listening to all this.
Put your mic up to your mouth.
Hello? Is that better? The sense of hopelessness is a real thing, and it's a real problem. But Tri has a program called Chat, which is really about engaging members of the community in conversations about a vision of a positive future. Okay, if you've got organizations working really hard, you also need an empowered community to work with those people, and getting people to collaborate on a positive vision for the future is what Chat is all about. Whoops. There we go. This is about building stronger, resilient communities by engaging groups to share ideas, collaborate, share ideas, develop a vision for the future that would result in a more resilient community. So in these chat conversations, people get together, people are invited to get together and talk about,
Keep going, Ty, keep going.
yeah, sorry, get together and talk about kind of what's going on in the community, what are the issues, what's going on, but also then focus on how can we make this better? How can we imagine or envision a positive outcome here, and then what can we do about it to get there? So this is all based on, this is all based on the idea that if you can imagine it, you can achieve it. Imagine, think about all the times that you've had a really difficult challenge facing you. And you think about it, you get together with colleagues and friends, you share ideas, you come up with a solution, and then you can go and do something about that because you now have a vision of where you're going. So, the dream is inclusive, resilient community where everyone is welcome, and chat is just a fun way to get together with other people, collaborate and talk. And this is really the what. You can get together any group can get together. Tri provides, we can provide food, we can provide facilitation. You figure out where you want to do it. You invite your friends, and it's as simple as that. And that link takes you to a form where you can do that. I think we have flyers in the back if anybody wants to talk about this later.
All right, so catch up with him to hear more about that. All right, so you guys know that we have a community talk series that we have not had in a while called News, Brews, and Beats. So we are going to revisit that in a couple of weeks.
Hi, everybody. Wednesday, April 23rd at Illinois Public Media, you're all invited to attend this free event. Panel discussion, the pre-reception starts at 5 in the lobby. We have another power panelist similar to what's here today, so we can pick up this conversation, go more into detail. It will also air on WILL TV, and we will also be airing on YouTube. And I don't know about y'all, but it's time for boots on the ground. Where my fans at? We'll see you there. Listen to Illinois Soul for details. There'll be a Facebook invite out there. There's no need to RSVP. It's for adults. We'll look forward to seeing you there.
All right, so AXO is happening. Dr. Gillespie couldn't be here today. Saturday, the 19th of April is our AXO competition. Win recovery. And I need you to come through and go through pretty quickly. So, sorry there's not enough time.
Hello, my name is Jessica. I work for Win Recovery. We are safe, well, our watch program consists of safe homes for women who are just as involved, women and the LGBTQ2S+, who are just as involved coming just out of incarceration or substance abuse treatment. vision is to transform and abolish overpopulation of women incarcerated. Our watch program, there's different, our first phase, they come in, sorry. Oh, that's the next one. Sorry, okay. Sorry. So we're acclimating to community housing is what the watch stands for. It's structured, multi-phase program designed to help residents of its community homes successfully reintegrate into society. The program begins with phase 1, where residents receive intensive support, including housing, healthcare, and counseling to stabilize after their release. After that, they go on to phase 2. The focus shifts towards greater independence, employment, and educational opportunities. This is just that was just a look at the inside of some of our homes. In August of 2024, we opened a Wind Resilience Resource Center so that we could help people in the community that aren't in our homes. Again, justice-involved women and those of the LGBTQ+. Some of the things we can help with is, any resources we can help with bus passes, utility assistance, moving assistance, documentation. If there's resources that you need that we can't help with, we will help you help them find those resources. So here I just have a couple of the girls that have actually graduated the WIN program. They're just gonna tell you a little bit about their story.
I want to be quick, so I wrote it out because I'm a talker. Hi, I'm Melissa, and I'm here today to share about how WIN Recovery changed my life. I came into WIN Recovery in April of 2021. Before coming to WIN Recovery, I had been in jail for over 6 months, and I had been furloughed for a 28-day treatment. While in treatment, I realized that I would never be able to stay clean if I went back to where I came from. So I started looking into recovery homes. I found WIN Recovery and knew that it was the program that I wanted to get into. When I came into WIN, I was completely broken spiritually and emotionally. I didn't know if I could stay clean, but I did know that this life I was living isn't the life I wanted for myself. I no longer had my 2 children with me. I had sent them to live elsewhere when my addiction really took off because I didn't want to drag them through the muck with me. I was facing life in prison and really couldn't see a future for myself. Miss Bethany, the director and CEO of WIN, challenged me. She saw my worth when I didn't. I had settled for an easy job when I came into WIN because I was a felon and had tattoos on my face. I just knew nobody was gonna hire me. Miss Bethany told me that I needed to apply myself and stop settling, so I applied for a bunch of jobs that I just knew I would never get. I went to interviews, but of course, once they saw me and heard about my background, I was not a good candidate. Then I got a call from an orthodontist office. I went into the interview and walked out with the job. I worked the dental field and made a career out of it for over 3 years. WIN gave me a safe place to go through my process. It taught me how to process and move past all the trauma that had been torturing me my whole life. The staff supported me and held me as I cried. WIN gave me the family I never had and always longed for. Through WIN, I had so many accomplishments. To name a few, I began getting visits with my children again. I got my driver's license back. I bought a car. I got full custody of my kids back. I added 2 more babies to my family. And I got married last year. And the biggest miracle of all was I walked into court on an open plea with no cap. The state was arguing for life, and we were arguing for minimum. And the judge saw me not for being an addict, but for being a human. He saw my hard work and all my accomplishments and gave me 4 years of probation. It was a miracle. In September of 2023, I joined WIN Recovery so that I could help others like me find their way.
And I'm here today to share my experience at WIN Recovery. I came into WIN Recovery in February of 2022. My journey started by calling WIN Recovery to see if they had any openings. And they told me if I would go to treatment they would set me into the program. So I went to a local 28-day treatment facility. After completion, I was able to get into WIN recovery. When I arrived at WIN, I met with my client coordinator, and we started targeting problem areas in my life. To name a few, I had an open DCFS case. My son was in foster care and had been there since birth due to my addiction. I was on probation, facing further legal trouble because I could not stay clean. So we started working with my mental health, getting me set up with psychiatry. WIN facilitates a peer-led trauma group, which really helped me process events in my life. I struggled with addiction for nearly a decade, and today I have almost 3.5 years clean. I accomplished that in recovery, or I graduated probation. I have a healthy relationship with my children. I gave birth to my daughter Delilah in May of 2023. I graduated WIN recovery in May of 2023, and in 2025, I took a position at WIN Resilience Resource Center so I could give back what was really given to me.
Cheered up. All right. So, since WIN's official opening in 2019, WIN Recovery has housed and supported more than 860 clients. In this regard, the organization's recidivism rate is 3% versus the 44% rate reported by the IDOC. 5 former claims are now on staff supporting the community that helped them get their lives back on track. WIN Recovery is funded. Oh, I don't need to read that.
All right. Thanks, Jessica, for sharing that with us. All right, let's get down to a mic real quick. Black Mental Health and Wellness, September 20th, we've had the date.
I'm gonna be quick. For those who don't know me, my name is Donna Tannehill. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor, and I've chaired the first 2 Black Mental Health and Wellness conferences. And I see some of my presenters here today. And I just wanna ask you a couple of things. One is to please continue to support it. It's gonna be, you have the date up there, September the 20th. And if you have any topics that you'd like for us to consider, please get in touch with me or Tracy or Michael in his office. And obviously, this conference is a one-day conference, and we're not seeking to solve everything, but it is an attempt to bring a sense of community. One of the things that's happened since our first two conferences, is people have come up to me throughout the community and really talked about how much they enjoyed getting together for that day, being able to talk to each other and share information and share stories, and the presenters have just been phenomenal. So please get in touch with us, and if you have anything that you, or not just topics, if you have suggestions or comments, or if you have come, or if you, then you can talk to me about that. And we do take our feedback very seriously. So I appreciate the support. I'm looking forward to another dynamic conference. One of the things that's touched me throughout this year is I see people with the bags, and they were just walking around the community. I'm thinking, wow, they get that little bag. It's just a little canvas bag. But again, that's building a sense of community, that we are all in this together. I really appreciate the panel and everything that they said, and all the things that, yes, there's so much more to be done. We all realize that. I think we all have a part, and this is just a small part in making our community better. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Donna, for tremendous leadership on that. And I probably don't need to say it, but I'm gonna say it anyway. This conference is for everyone. And each year I get someone to say, well, I didn't think it was for me because it said Black Mental Health and Wellness, right? So everyone is welcome to this conference.
Everyone.
So John Ruffin is back here in the corner, neighborhood conference happening.
Thank you, Tracy. Well, I want to take an opportunity to invite you all to join us in our second conference this year, the 2025 Champaign Neighborhood Network Conference. It's an opportunity for folks who are interested in this neighborhood organizing and engagement work, community building work, to come together to learn about some amazing community resources, opportunities, and initiatives underway to support engagement and organizing at the neighborhood level. And so the conference is free and open to the public, and registration is open currently, and you can register via Eventbrite. The conference is May 9th from 9 to 4 p.m.
Thank you, John. All right, last one, Copper Creek Church is helping out with African American Heritage Trip.
Many of you may have noticed historical markers in front of various buildings, murals, and other sites around the city. And they designate sites along the African American Heritage Trail. Well, these, with a generous grant from Healing, Illinois, Abby Hobbs from Copper Creek Church, who often joins us here, has organized 2 Heritage Trail guided bus tours for the first one is on Saturday, May 17th, and the second is on Saturday, June 7th. Each tour is followed by a lunch and a discussion, but you'll need to reserve your seat on the bus by emailing Abby. There are flyers with her address and further information on the back table.
Just a short word about the Heritage Trail. The idea for the Heritage Trail started with the mural, and then another mural, until a community committee realized that the murals alone could not fully capture the history and contributions of African Americans to Champaign County. Under the leadership of co-chairs Angela Rivers and Barbara Suggs Mason, descendants of family members who first moved to Champaign County in the 1860s, the trail now includes historic buildings, parks, public art, churches, museums, people, and events. We are newish to Champaign, so I was eager to sign up for the first guided bus tour last summer. The stories and historical information provided were so rich and so eye-opening, I knew I had to go again, just to take it all in. So even if you've lived here your whole life, taking one of these guided bus tours on May 17 or June 7 is a must-do. Just remember, the guided tour, followed by lunch and discussion, are free. You just need to reserve your spot by emailing Abby Hobbs, whose email address is on the flyer in the back.
All right, so powerful meeting, but it's action time, right? So I hope my phone is blowing up, my email with, this is what we can do, this is what I want to do, this is how we can connect, right? It's not I, it's we, it's our community, these are our kids, right? So, love you all, peace. Thank you.